Welcome to Beyond the Coverage. I'm Chris Horner. In today's episode, I want to talk about two articles that came out in cycling news about Marc Matteo, the director sportif for FDJ, my old team in the 90s, and about Lenny Martinez, the rider who rides for FDJ's Marc Matteo's team. In the article, Marc Matteo's talking about how for French teams it's going to become harder and harder and close to impossible for them to be able to keep a rider whose salary is starting to get up there high in the pay. We start looking over Lenny Martinez, who's going over to Bahrain Victorious and leaving FDJ. They'll quote this down in the article there that he's going to make about $800,000. That means if you're losing 40% compared to other teams, that's a huge drop. So FDJ was the team that nurtured Lenny Martinez to come up through the early seasons of his career, his professional career anyways. But now when the paycheck's getting bigger, he's got to jump ship and go over to Bahrain Victorious. It also says in the article with Lenny Martinez that he would like to go over and win the Tour de France one day. Well, he's got a lot of problems to be able to break through in order to win the Tour de France. First off, he's vertically challenged because he's 5'6". When I started looking from the 80s all the way up to 2024, there's no rider that's been able to win that's under that 5'7", 5'8" height when we're talking about winning the Tour de France. So at 5'6", we see Lenny Martinez has the vertical challenge, and he's horizontally challenged too because he's only 114 pounds. Now 114 and a half, we should add that half because every bit of weight's going to make a difference when you're talking about being 5'6". So Lenny Martinez has a bunch of obstacles because when I add the last one in where he is of French nationality, we haven't seen a French rider win the Tour de France since Bernard Hinault and Laurent Fignon days, and we're talking about the 80s. The last French team, we're talking about Greg LeMond time too. So you have those three riders that are riding for French teams. So when we look at Lenny Martinez going over Bahrain Victorious, he's at least getting rid of one of those obstacles because he's going to get paid a little bit better going over there, which is a wise move, and they seem to have a little bit more in depth. But FDJ does have their seasons of having high performance in the Tour de France. I only have to take you back to 2019 where it was Thibaut Pinot that I thought was most likely the best rider to be able to win that year's Tour de France, and he was battling along with Egan Bernal, Geraint Thomas, and he had the French rider that was there, Julian Alaphilippe. So you had two French riders in 2019 who were putting on a show there at that year's Tour de France. But of course, Julian Alaphilippe dropped off the pace there on the penultimate mountain stages. And then Thibaut Pinot had the injury to his leg, which knocked him out, and he had to abandon that year's Tour de France. So a French rider has not won the Tour de France since the 80s. So Lenny Martinez, again, in this article, if we highlight it, what does he have to do to be able to win the Tour de France? Well, he's horizontally challenged, he's vertically challenged. So what do you do when you're circularly challenged? Well, normally you would go over to a rider, and let's look at the bigger riders that have won these past decades here at the Tour de France. And Bradley Wiggins is one of the tallest at 6'3". At 6'3", the director sportif, when they took him from Garmin and brought him over there to Team Sky, they said, hey, you got to drop weight. Well, dropping weight is almost what you would tell every rider. But now if I'm Bahrain Victorious and I'm looking over there at Lenny Martinez, who I just signed to try to win the Tour de France, I'm thinking you got to gain weight. We got to see Lenny Martinez to get that power to weight ratio different so he's closer to Jonas Vingegaard type power, or maybe even a Remco Evenepoel, who I'm aware has not won the Tour de France, but he did do a podium this year, and I don't think it's too far-fetched to think that Remco Evenepoel, under the right situation, could win the Tour de France. But at this moment, he's only a Vuelta winner, so we start looking at his power to weight ratio, where he's 5'7" at about 134, 35 pounds. His power to weight ratio is quite good at that height. So Lenny Martinez has to gain 8, 10 pounds. If I'm Bahrain Victorious, what I'm saying to Lenny Martinez with that $100,000 paycheck and saving a 40% of it, I'm saying first off, let's put a gym in your garage. Let's get you lifting weights over this winter. Let's get you focused so we can fix that power to weight ratio issue that you got going on. Because at this moment and beyond the coverage, I don't think a rider, and I'll say it right now, Lenny Martinez cannot win the Tour de France at 114 and a half pounds. So he's going to have to put some muscle on. As I already said, you can't get shorter, so you'd either have to get shorter to get the power to weight ratio up, or you got to gain weight. But it has to be weight basically from the waist down. He needs those hips, he needs those thighs and the calves, like we see on Tadej Pogacar, Remco Evenepoel, and Jonas Vingegaard, where they're so well built below the waist with the hips and thighs there, especially Tadej Pogacar, who actually carries quite a bit of weight for his size, but it's all muscle down below. So Lenny Martinez has to start focusing on legs and hips and stuff to get that power to weight ratio up to get him in the Tour de France. Now, at this moment, if I'm Bahrain victorious, would I sign Lenny Martinez? Well, certainly. You have riders over there that just got done going top 5 at the Giro with Antonio Tibieri, and if he can get himself into some good form, all of a sudden you take a rider like Lenny Martinez, where his most important aspect right now is that he's 5'6" and 114.5 pounds. So you can use Lenny Martinez quite effectively right now if Bahrain victorious was to sign any kind or evolve a rider they already have into any kind of Tour de France winner. They are still going to need a rider like Lenny Martinez is at his size and weight, so that at least when you get into the mountains, they have a GC, a mountain goat there that can look after their GC contender. But it's not going to be Lenny Martinez at the Tour de France. Now, if he focused over at Spain and he focused at the Giro, that's a possibility, because you start shortening the individual time trials, because Lenny Martinez is not a time trial specialist either. So Lenny Martinez has to be able to find races that are more set up to his size and his weight. That means Spain and that means Italy, when they have less quality time trial distances, not less quality, but less distance of time trials, then all of a sudden that will reduce the time loss that Lenny Martinez would effectively have after an individual time trial stage. At the Tour de France, normally most seasons, they have 2 individual time trials, and you can't make up 3, 4, 5 minutes lost at an individual time trial at that quality of field when we're talking about the Tour de France. Go into Spain like I did in 2013, where they only had 24-kilometer time trial that year. I wasn't going to lose that much time, so I didn't have to make up a ton of time on Vincenzo Nibali, Alejandro Valverde, and the time trial specialists there in GC. Luckily for me, with the exception of Vincenzo Nibali, the other riders aren't time trial specialists, so I was only going to lose time to one rider that I had to make up in the mountains. And I think if we're talking the Tour de France at 114.5 pounds for Lenny Martinez, I wouldn't be focusing on winning the Tour de France at this moment so much as I would look at Spain, look at Italy and winning those, and then being a super domestique at the Tour de France, at least until I get that $800,000 paycheck and I start putting some more protein in the body and start gaining some more muscle. Because at 5'6", he's got a problem there. At his height, he's got a problem. At his weight, he's got a problem. As French team, he's gotten rid of, but he's still French nationality, which we haven't seen a French rider win since the 80s. So he's got all kinds of dilemmas to overcome if he's going to win the Tour de France. The first one up here on Beyond the Coverage, the reason why you want to like and subscribe is because I clarify these articles and try to bring you what a rider has to do. So if I'm Lenny Martinez, you can't change your height, but you can change your weight. Get in the gym, start lifting some weights. Hope you can get that power to weight ratio a little bit different. And then maybe one day you can win the Tour de France. At this moment though, if I'm your director sportif, I'm telling you you're a super domestique at the Tour de France or trying to win mountain stages individually, but not the GC. Otherwise, focus on Spain, focus on the Giro. Hope you guys liked the article. And for my French director sportif, Marc Madia, 40%. That's hard to make up. You guys got a hard calling over there if you're riding for a French team or if you're a French director sportif to hold those riders. Hopefully you get some more luck or you find some more budgets with some big time more sponsors to be able to keep riders like Lenny Martinez in the future. At this moment, French team's got it really hard. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.